Hi, I'm high. In the sky, again, and you are not high. Probably, that's just a lot of villagers. Why, you may ask? Well, it was over a year ago when I started this Stranded series. Or, well, made a single episode that was very mid at best, but with a cliffhanger so epic. WhoopieKid7321 said now he's not going to be able to die in peace without knowing what happened next, and I cannot let that happen. And in order not to let it happen and finish the series, I needed just a few specific villagers that had a pretty low chance of spawning. Or, well, at least that's how it started. But before we get to any of that, what even is Stranded? Well, to put it in simplest terms, you spawn on a rock and have to figure shit out. Sort of like in real life, but more specifically it's a game mode on Hypixel Skyblock. The difference between Hypixel Skyblock is that it actually resembles the classic Skyblock. The difference between classic Skyblock is that there is a lot more stuff you can do, and a lot more items you can get. And the challenge is to figure out how, cause while some items you can get as you would normally do, for other that you wouldn't normally be able to get, you have to, for example, unlock a collection with a crafting recipe for a stick that changes a biome to where a mob spawns dropping a certain item. Much fun, especially if you don't use wiki, which I'm not allowed to use. And the goal is to eventually figure out every collection, unlocking a legendary builder's NPC, allowing you to build a rocket and escape this place. Okay, well, not really, but tell me that wouldn't be a fire idea if devs actually did something like that. Or is it like the plot of every game ever made? I don't know. Either way, the last time, apart from unlocking the easiest collections, I also cured my first couple villagers. And after some time spent together, two things become apparent. First of all, these are not just regular villagers. It is a highly intelligent species that was able to quickly recognize the futility of their situation and come to the only logical conclusion to intentionally cut short their existence, thus preventing the eternity of suffering. Either that or they are just kinda dumb and walked into a wall and died when I wasn't looking. I'm just mad because it took so long to get them until literally the next day they were just gone. But ignoring that part, the second thing I realized is that villagers on Stranded have custom traits for items you cannot get in any other way, so whether I liked it or not, to complete the challenge, I would have to trade with them. Which, couple issues with that. First of all, the traits are really expensive, like 1 or 2 stacks of random resource for a single emerald, and then hundreds or even thousands of emeralds for a single item. Second of all, the villagers start at level 1, with only 1 trade option for emeralds and 1 for items. You can level them up for more options, but that takes like billion trades, which again, really expensive. And finally, you cannot breed the villagers, making it quite difficult to get a lot of them and meaning I couldn't really pick and choose the trades I wanted. And even though those issues may not seem connected, there was one solution that could in theory counteract all of them. Just simply get a lot of large variety of items. And the simplest way to do that would be with a mob farm. And which is when I was going to tell you a story about an epic quest to build the greatest mob farm on Stranded, except there is no point cause it kinda failed. Plus it was recorded a long time ago and I don't have most of the footage. But to summarize it, after grueling hours of battling dozens of quite unique issues arising from Hypixel just optimizing their servers, removing half of the most useful stuff and making the other half work differently than they supposed to, I would reach a point when the farm was reaching the mob cap that was also lower than in vanilla Minecraft, faster than I could kill the mobs. And because as far as I'm aware there is no insta-killing tech like portals in vanilla Minecraft, no matter how efficient I would make my farm to be, it would always be bottlenecked by this. And if not, it would be by something else. And ultimately the farm turned out good and kinda cool. Just not as overpowered as I needed it to be. And forcing me for the change of plans. And And instead of getting high variety of items, I would try to focus on a single best one. And as it happens, it was around the time when I finally decided to visit Garden, which is like a separate dimension where crops grow faster. Why is that a thing, especially on Stranded, where the idea is that you supposedly can't leave your island? No idea. But there seems to be 4 different kind of resources you can trade for emeralds: ores, mob drops, wood, and crops. And so you may think, oh, he's just gonna farm crops and trade them for emeralds. No. So you see, one of the mechanics of Garden is that you can automatically create a farm for each crop. And while yes, it is taking resources from your inventory to do that, it only takes a crop of the farm you're creating, and not, for example, the dirt on which the crop is being planted on. That one you get for free. And while most of the crops grow on dirt, which is kinda useless, there is couple exemptions, like cocoa beans that grow on jungle wood. That yes, you also get for free. And so you may be thinking, oh, free wood, that is kinda cool, but you still have to chop it down. No. So then on Hypixel there are tools introduced in mind to help people build and stuff. Like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, man. Like Builder's Ruler, allowing you to instantly place or delete a row of blocks, and a Zapper that deletes up to 164 connected blocks, both of them on a slight cooldown, which you can bypass by just swapping between them. And with that simple strategy, I was able to produce up to 260 logs per second. And if that wasn't enough, when your inventory gets filled up, the rest of the logs goes to your basically infinite stash, allowing you to farm millions of logs at a time and then trade them for emeralds for 2 times better price and 2 times faster than crops. And there was only one final thing I had left to do to make this work. I needed some villagers that would trade for jungle wood. Which I didn't thought was gonna be an issue at all, like I didn't know how many options are there, but it couldn't be that many. Nevertheless, to speed up the process, I decided to make a simple mob filter, aka a few single block wide platforms under the roof, where zombie villagers would get punched inwards, landing into a water stream leading to a place where I'd be curing them, and every other mob would get punched outwards into the void. And as simple as this contraption was, it was actually quite effective, already at this point getting me quite a few villagers. Except still no jungle wood trade. And technically I didn't need the rest of the villagers, but as long as the game was allowing me to spawn more, I didn't have reason to get rid of them either. And this went for a while, because apparently it is like impossible to get a single trade you want, and when I actually got one... Oh my god, we actually got one. I cannot believe it. We're gonna be rich. He just walked into a wall and died. Wait, what are you doing? No. No! Like, I wish that was a joke. It actually got me so mad. But what was strange is that the game was still allowing me to spawn more villagers. Which started to make me wonder, wait, is there actually a limit? Because what if I just fill my entire island with villagers? I mean, that would be hilarious. And so, I decided to investigate. What is the limit of villagers you can get on Stranded? No limit, I think. Wait, that's it? There was another post with someone claiming to have over 40 villagers and still not hitting the limit, which would make sense since I already had about double that, and the fact that probably no one hit the limit yet, it made me wanna test this even more. And it was more or less at this point when I unofficially decided to become #1 villager farm. No, wait, that doesn't sound right. But in order to do that, I would have to scale up my production significantly, starting by improving my mob filtering system. And the biggest problem with my old filtering system was getting rid of all the mobs that I didn't need, which previously I was doing literally one by one. But then I remembered about this feature from Zapper that lets you undo zap if you, for example, zap the blocks by accident, which gave me an idea. Wait, I can just make the mob spawn on a string of connected blocks, so that when I use Zapper, it will remove all of the blocks at once, dropping the mobs into the void, and then I can just do undo zap to restore the blocks. Say whatever you want, but that idea was actually genius, especially that it worked flawlessly, skyrocketing my production to about 30 villagers an hour. Which apart from that, I also probably over-engineered a segregation system, which saying that out loud, I probably should work on my names to essentially more easily separate the good villagers from the bad ones. Okay, that sounds even worse. Where the good ones would go to this little enclosed space to work for me forever, and the bad ones would get dropped into this pit to be later harvested for, I mean, what? And that again went for a while, the entire time fully prepared that the game is gonna stop me anytime now. But then I got 100 villagers, then 200, then 300, at which point I slowly started to believe that Just Imp might be onto something. But if there was no limit, I needed new arbitrary goal, which I thought it would be fun if I got my island to have a higher population than the entire Hypixel Skyblock, which at lowest points is about 10,000. And for that not to take the next 10 years, I needed even faster way to get villagers. And there was only one final way I could think of. Reaper Scythe. Which apart from being just a good weapon to have, it possesses ability to summon mobs. That should be including zombie villagers. There was only one problem. It is ridiculously expensive. So you know, like when you kill a zombie with a looting weapon, it drops like 1 to 2 rotten flesh, right? Well, if you do that long enough, you'll get yourself 160 rotten flesh, with which you can craft a single enchanted rotten flesh. Easy. Now, you just need to repeat that 256 times and congratulations! You can now craft a single zombie heart. Of which you need 10. For single Reaper Falcon, of which you need 3 to craft Reaper Scythe. And that's not even mentioning hundreds of thousands of diamonds, strings, and incredibly rare drop from Revenant boss. Luckily, on Hypixel there is a slavery option. When if you're gonna strip yourself of any morals, you can order your minions to get all of the stuff for you. The problem is that with my current setup that would take around 3 months. I cannot go that long without uploading, my fans would murder me. No, wait, actually, I don't think anyone would notice. But either way, I wasn't going to wait that long. And ironically, by not trying to progress the challenge, but rather do a stupid arbitrary side quest is what got me to progress the challenge the most. Which I'm pretty sure there is some kind of life lesson hidden in that, I'm just not sure what that is. Because now, to finish the side quest, I needed to get the fancy weapon. To get a fancy weapon, I needed a lot of rotten flesh. To get rotten flesh faster, I needed more minion slots. To get more minion slots, I needed to craft more unique minions. To craft more unique minions, I needed to unlock and progress through unique collections. And to do that faster, I got sudden interest in getting better tools, pets, and leveling up my skills. And the progress was slow, but consistent. Except for one thing. That was not consistent at all. Getting the final component for crafting the Reaper Scythe. That depended on luck. And you may remember that I have a little bit of history with luck on Hypixel. Well, I guess this is part 2, cause oh my god, I have never seen randomness behave so consistently inconsistent. Or inconsistently consistent? I don't know, either way, it all started with a streak of bad luck. So when you kill a boss, there is a bunch of stuff you can get, and assuming the magic find doesn't work on the 3 most common jobs, which the wiki says it doesn't, but in the game it seems as it does, there should be about 50% chance of getting at least something. So you can imagine my frustration when after something like 11 bosses in a row, spending most of my already very thin savings, I would get nothing. Not even a single drop apart from the guaranteed ones. And you may have heard that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which also incidentally might be just a literal description of the only thing you get to do while gambling, but I didn't care. The luck has clearly stopped working and it was time to take the matter in my own hands. And the thing about randomness in games is that it's not real, it's just an algorithm based on something. So if the result is not changing, it is possible that that's because that something is not changing. And there was in fact one thing that stayed consistent during me killing the bosses. So because I was playing the game pretty much backwards and challenging one of the strongest bosses while still rocking a starter weapon and armor, there was no way I could defeat it in a fair fight. So the way I do it is with suffocation chamber chamber, which meant that every time the boss was dying in the same exact spot. So throwing all logic and my limited knowledge about how that couldn't possibly affect anything out of the window, I thought, okay, but what if I just move that spot? Like, couple decimals higher. And I'm not even kidding, the absolute second I did that, I got like 5 rare drops in a row. Which I hope my live reaction expresses my genuine confusion. What the fuck? Like, how? 1, 2, 3, 4. While in other layers there was like nothing. There's nothing. This is getting ridiculous. I'm not even sure. Unfortunately, the incredible streak of luck would eventually break, although for some reason my drop rate still felt higher on 3 layers of snow than on a flat ground, but I'm a skeptic person in nature, so I naturally assumed it was just RNG gods pulling an epic prank on me and deciding to give me all those rare drops. Not one attempt before, not one attempt after, but as soon as I did something, making me believe that I actually did something. So I continued as normal for a couple more days, at this point already with like 700 boss kills in total, tens of millions hard-earned money in the sink, and still without the 1 drop I was looking for. In fact, still without any of those super rare drops, which including Magic Find, I statistically should have got at least few at this point. And I'm not gonna lie, my patience has run out, so I decided to make a proper test. And the first thing I wanted to test is if the drops depend on the server you're on, or at least if changing the server does also change the random seed, or at the very least if changing the server after each kill does anything at all. And as a bonus, just in case, I also kept my position and boss's position consistent throughout the test. And I'm not sure if my first 20 kills proved something, or did I just lose a bunch of money for no reason, cause out of those first 20 kills I got a single foul flash. Yeah, someone ran the math on that. But then I thought, okay, maybe that's because I'm actually onto something. It's just that the first drop on the server in those conditions is always or almost always nothing. So let me try a second drop, which is when I would start to do this very specific thing when I would kill the first boss, which would always drop nothing, start the second boss on the same server, only then relog, and after I would come back, that boss, for whatever reason, would always drop something. So now we get nothing, as expected, but now we start again. And now we get foul flesh. What the fuck? Okay, chill. Everyone freaking chill. So now we disconnect. We start quest here. Now we get nothing, as expected. But now we start again. Disconnect. Wait a second. Now we log back. And now we get foul flesh. Okay, what the fuck? This is not supposed to be working that well, okay? This is not supposed to be working that well. And I'm just scared, because I'm like 99% sure I'm just getting trolled at this point, because even though I was able to perfectly predict 8 results in a row, or get consistent pattern on 10 drops in a row, all that perfectly timed with me changing the strategy, again, that is still in the realms of just being lucky. Because when I was slowly getting to the point when it would be statistically very improbable for this to still be a coincidence, as if, out of spite, the streak would break. I mean, technically, even then I kept getting consistent results. I once again started to consistently get nothing, that is, which then made me think it could be related to time, and under some circumstances the numbers just weirdly interact with each other, you know, like when you multiply any number by an even number, you always get an even result, so like the drops corresponding to an odd number would have a... Listen, I don't know. What I know is that it is done by people way more knowledgeable in those stuff than me, and there is no reason for this to not be a system you at least shouldn't be able to knowingly influence, so there is no point trying. All I'm asking is, why is it so weird? Also saying all that stuff about there being no point trying, yeah, well, I would probably keep trying, except I was doing it for so long I literally just ran out of money. And I guess the whole point of me saying all this is that I just wanted to complain, cause I mean I almost maxed out Revenant Slayer, something I didn't even do on my main profile without getting a single drop, like what the fuck. Luckily on Hypixel there is a bad luck prevention system where you can just trade your XP for any drop you want, which is very expensive and under any normal circumstances almost never worth it, but because I already had all the other resources ready and the thought of now having to make more money to keep trying to get a drop that at this point felt more rare than the Holy Grail was just too much for my motivation to handle, and all I could think of was just give me my damn weapon. It pains me to do so, but it is literally impossible to get a single rare drop. Reaper Falchion number 1 and Reaper Falchion number 2. Unfortunately, the bad luck prevention could not prevent my overall bad luck, which had nothing to do with the weapon. It actually worked great, skyrocketing my island's population to 1000 villagers, and then it stopped. Cause as it turns out that is the maximum you can get, which if I knew I could have got it in like 2 days with my old method. Apart from that, after leveling up some villagers and uncovering everything they have to offer, it turned out while they are essential, unlocking 3 more collections, they are way less useful than I thought they're gonna be, especially that all those collections could be unlocked with just level 2 villagers requiring like 50 trades. And finally I realized that the XP to level up the villagers doesn't even represent the number of trades. I mean it does when you trade for emeralds, but when you trade for items you get XP equal to amount of emeralds traded, so essentially a single jungled villager would be more than enough. And the entire reason this whole thing started, which was to get enough jungled villagers to unlock every trade, was never valid to begin with. So was it all for nothing then? Yeah, pretty much. But I mean 1000 villagers on a small island is still kind of fun. And if we would count all those who walked into a wall and died, I mean there gotta be at least 10,000. Which meant that not only I knew for a fact I had the most alive villagers, cause you just couldn't get more, I also became number 1 villager far, I mean what? And at last, it did make us progress quite a lot, leaving only a couple collections left to discover, although given how much random stuff I did still without unlocking them even by accident, it does make me worried that those are gonna be the toughest ones.